Okay, let's take a minute and go over some of these density practice problems. In the first example, we are told a piece of tin has a mass of 16.52 grams and a volume of 2.26 milliliters. What is the density of tin? The first step to any word problem is to write down what you're given in the problem. So we know that mass equals 16.52 grams and volume equals 2.26 milliliters. And we can tell this because the question says it, a mass of, a volume of. It won't always say it. You should also learn to read your units. And we're asked to find density. So sometimes it's helpful to list that as well. We know the equation that relates these three variables is D, density, equals M over V. And since this equation is already rearranged to solve for density, we can just go right ahead and plug in our values. So D equals 16.52 grams, because units matter, divided by 2.26 milliliters. And when you do your math, you should get 7.31, and round a little bit for me. If you're worried about rounding, always, give me at least 3 good numbers. And if you look at the units, they should be grams divided by milliliters, because nothing cancels out. We have both of them. Let's look at a second example. It says, what is the mass of an object that has a density of 8 grams per centimeter cubed and a volume of 64 centimeters cubed? So always we write down what we know. Density of 8 grams per centimeters cubed and a volume of 64 centimeters cubed. And remember that 1 centimeter cubed equals 1 milliliter, in case you ever have to convert them, but usually I'll give you the same volume units. And you are asked to solve for mass. The equation that relates these three variables is still density equals mass over volume. But now we have to rearrange this equation to solve for mass. And some of you probably can see that if you multiply both sides by volume, you'll get mass by itself. So you'll get mass equals density times volume. But depending on how much algebra you've taken and how far along you are in it, that might be a little tricky for you. So I'm going to teach you a trick called the magic triangle. So you make a triangle, and this works with any 3 variable equation. And you make there be 3 boxes. And now we need to put our equation right here into this triangle. And we need it to look fairly similar. So M has to be over V. So the only way to make M over V is to put the M here and the V there. Density. So now when we use this, you can put your finger over whatever variable you're solving for and you can see your equation. So if we had our finger over density, we'd see M over V. If we had our finger over mass, we'd see D next to V, which is times, and volume is M over D. So now that we have our equation solved for the right variable, we can go ahead and plug in. Mass equals density times volume. And if you're looking at your units, you should be able to see that this centimeters cubed cancels out with this one in order to give us 512 grams. Let's look at our final example. What is the volume of a 325 gram piece of metal with a density of 9 grams per milliliter? So first step, always to write what you know. Now this doesn't tell you what 312 grams is, but you should know that grams is how we measure mass. Make sure you're actually reading the question, you're not just skimming it, because it could say volume of, and if you're not paying attention to that in there, that's just saying, the volume of a piece of metal that is 325 grams, you might think that that 325 is a volume. Make sure you know what units go with what measurement. Density is 9.0 grams per milliliter, and we're solving for volume. We know our equation is density equals mass over volume, and I make it a habit to always write that equation because it helps me learn it. And you can either tell by doing the algebra, most people would do a cross multiplication here, or by using that magic triangle. You should be able to see that volume equals mass over density. So when we plug into this equation, we have 325 grams divided by 9.0 grams per milliliter. And you probably see that these grams cancel out. And your volume is equal to 36 milliliters. Make sure that when you're writing volume, it's very clearly a capital V, because a lowercase v means a velocity. And it might not matter now, but we will get to a point where we would be using velocity as well. So to keep yourself straight, get in the habit now of writing those letters capital. So look at how I write them. There's a reason they're written that way. Hopefully this helps you understand this math a little bit better.